Welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and celebrate the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Tim Barnes from UncertainLifeComic.com.
And I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And today, we're here to talk about minute 44 of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. 44 starts with Poe saying that he'll be there to jump us to light speed. And it ends with our old friend Maz Kanata, who's telling us how we can find the Master Code Breaker.
I'm glad you got some Maz, the Maz minute today and tomorrow. She doesn't show up other than that, as far as I know.
Pretty much, yeah.
I love Maz. Is it Maz or Maz? I say Maz.
It goes back and forth, yeah. It's like Han and Han.
Yeah. Truly fascinating character. I don't know if this minute serves her well.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll wait till we get into that exact moment, I guess.
Yeah, so this is the scene where she introduces the concept of the code breaker, right? Master code breaker.
At the end, she's like, "All right, you'll find him with a red palm blom."
Right.
Red plum bloom,
plum
lapel. So many questions about the logic of this moment of, I guess, first of all, whenever there's a phone call or a holo call or whatever you call it in Star Wars, it always kind of throws me off because of how rare they kind of are. Like, I can think of like Imperials maybe doing a holo call with Darth Vader a few times, or Obi-Wan Kenobi doing a holo call with Yoda and Mace Windu in Attack of the Clones a couple times. But this one, just the logic of what is actually going on. Is there like some sort of floating droid facing a camera at Maz?
Right. Well, it's like one of those little drones that follows you around, right? So they make those now where it's like, I'm going to go for a run and this little helicopter is going to follow me the whole time.
In case I got call.
Didn't they have those in the Senate, in the Galactic Senate? Those yellow things that reminded me of that robot from Flubber.
Oh, right.
But you think if you're in the middle of a pitched battle, you wouldn't want to have a thing floating around revealing your location.
Yeah. Of a union dispute. Okay, so
that's weird.
I don't know are we diving into this too quick, but a union dispute in a movie that takes place right after the last one. So what union dispute has emerged since just how much time has gone by? Maybe what a day or something?
That's true, yeah. Most a couple of days.
Well, I mean, I think it's the kind of thing, Maz is a bit of Maz. She's a bit of a fixer, as we see here. That so I think somebody else probably called her up and was just like, "Hey, like I got a union dispute. What can you do?" And she's like, "All right, I'll be right there."
Yeah.
And jumped over there. She's like, "My house just got blown up, but I'll be right there." Like.
I assumed it was because after her building collapsed, all the workers were like, "Hey, we want we want compensation. Does we have And she's like, "No, I'm not paying you guys anything."
Right.
And so she's basically she's like a strikebreaker. Is what
technically
she is.
freelancers, so you're permalancers. So I can't. You're on your own.
This is a gig-based. I assume Maz is anti-union because she's a business owner who I assume does not want her employees unionizing. So there's no way to read it except that she's trying to stop them from unionizing. Just kind of weird. But hey, business is business. Maybe that's part of the galaxy is DJ's thing. Like even the good guys are strikebreakers in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
Go figure.
That's odd. Now I'm going to be thinking about that. I tried to look up the union dispute, being like, "Oh, is this a thing that people have filled in?" But it's just listed as like unidentified union dispute.
Yeah,
that's so funny. Unidentified union dispute.
Yeah,
this is the big mystery. I can't wait to read that Star Wars.
What do we want? Unidentified. When do we want it? We're not sure.
I can't wait to read that from a certain point of view story.
Oh
about the union dispute.
I guess it's possible she might have been in a union of like bar owners or something, and maybe she was trying to get her insurance paid out, and maybe that's what it was.
Let's think about it. Because we like Maz. Let's put her on that side of things.
Yeah.
Speaking of liking Maz, here's an interesting the kind of the way that the Star Wars, at least behind the scenes, the casting of the Star Wars universe has expanded. That there are two white people in this scene. One is a droid and one is comatose. And it's pretty. You got Lupita Nyong'o.
That is remarkable. Yeah.
You got John Boyega. You got Oscar Isaac, and you've got Kelly Marie Tran. And then you like in the background. I'm not sure about the background of whoever's playing MD-15C. but it's an interesting.
C-3PO's there too. So
that's what I mean. Yeah, he's we got one droid and one comatose lady. But everybody else, it's a wonderful new world that we're in here.
You've totally changed the way I view this scene. This is a very pivotal scene in Star Wars history. Is that what you're telling me? Like that is
could be. I mean, as far as number of we've got a lot of characters talking who are relatively main characters, and they're all.
Well, even just having two female characters in the same scene in Star Wars is an incredible amount of progress.
Or not.
Only one female character in the first movie, so that's progress right there.
Yeah.
So.
But I feel like this scene kind of stood out. Still laying a lot of groundwork. I feel like Finn said a bunch of like encryption gibberish about all the encryption problems that they are going to have to solve. I don't fully understand it. What is going on here?
So he basically wants to sneak onto the Star Destroyer, but they need access codes to get onto the Star Destroyer to deactivate the tracking device. And so that's why Maz is like, you're going to need a code to get on board. That's why you got to go find Joe Cameo or whatever it is.
Yep.
Right. And that they won't. No, but then, he's also bringing up the way that it cycles. So if they get in there, they break the code to get through the shields, deactivate the tracker. They won't notice that the tracker is broken for 6 minutes. So they would, once they do it, they would have 6 minutes
to
escape and get back, and then jump before anybody realized anything was wrong. Which I don't know. I not to play what if. I do like a lot of the way that the movie turns out, but it would be an interesting, I think, rather than the way that their storyline resonates, it'd be interesting to see, like, I would like that little extra, after seeing so much, a 2-hour slow chase, it would be interesting to see a little, okay, now we got 6 minutes to get out of here, and having them racing to get out, rather than the way that I really will have a lot of issues with the way that their story ends, Finn and Rose and BB-8 especially, but but it would have been interesting to see, like, okay, now it's deactivated, and then we gotta, we have a 6 minute, countdown. I feel like that could have added a little bit of energy to this movie.
Also, this would have been a totally different movie, but to have them radio the rebels and say, "Okay, you can go," and then they jump to lightspeed, and Finn and they're stuck on the supremacy.
Right. No, but their ship can jump to lightspeed whenever they want.
But then, they go on the supremacy and deactivate the tracking device.
Right.
And then the rebels escape, and then
maybe done that. And then let the rebels escape, and then they could have just taken it, like, as soon as that everybody else would have been distracted by, like, how did the rebels escape? Then they could have just snuck back off in their ship and hyperspace back to wherever they wanted, because their ship has hyperspace and can go anywhere.
Yeah.
How many the average person? How many average viewers of this movie do you think can explain that?
I would say it's probably one of the more. I feel like they must repeat it periodically.
Yeah.
They must say we have to find the code breaker who will give us the encryption. Like, it must be emphasized at various points, because it is a kind of somewhat arcane, thing to get hung up about. The fact that they need a code to get into this, to do that,
Right.
Yeah.
I think once they set it up with this, though, then it's just kind of like, all right, we have to find the code breaker. That's the only thing that matters right now. So it's just like, all right, let's
just
let's not worry about why. We just have to find the code breaker.
Right.
Yeah.
when they show them do the Maz cameo, first of all, do you think that's the actress? Do you think they actually got her to do motion cap for that tiny little thing, or is that just all CGI totally?
It definitely doesn't feel like it. It feels very, but maybe just for her face.
Maybe
that could be true.
Yeah. I mean, the voice is clearly her, but
you don't think they gave Lupita Nyong'o a jetpack and they're like, all right, now you roll over here, shoot over that guy, blast that guy, and then fly out of here.
Hey, they built that sea siren that cost $50 million. I'm sure they got a backpack for a backpack.
I feel like there's just sort of a question of distance from where Maz is to where they are to the fact that they can have this call.
Instantaneous conversation.
And is it possible for the Snoke's people to infiltrate this kind of call? And then the bigger question of why don't people just call each other more often in Star Wars?
Like their moms. Why don't they call their moms?
Very few mothers in Star Wars, other than Shmi.
I guess that's why.
Shmi and Leia, the only two mothers, other than the Porg, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point. Like, also, like, they could, again, not to go back to the, picking it apart, but it's like, well, why not?
That's why we're here.
Call Maz and say, hey, Maz, send some hyperspace gas. Like, I guess they could still be tracked, so it's still that there's still that problem. But like the way that it's, the way they keep getting picked off, it's just like, well, can we get, like, why not everybody hyperspace in a different direction? You know what I mean? Like, let's go, let's mix it up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the Master
Holdo.
Codebreaker, that's right. Amy Lynn Holdo. The whole plot seems very video gamey. Like, Maz is saying, go to the casino and find this person, and how would she know that this guy happened to be playing high stakes game that he was playing, and he would still be playing high stakes games and have a thing in his lapel, like if he's on a planet.
Right.
It's like if Las Vegas is a planet, go to the one place you'll know where he'll be on this entire planet and find it's like.
Well, and to me, the even bigger question: why does Maz have a button on her chest that she can press that reveals the exact a lapel pin that the Master Codebreaker has? Like, what technology is that?
Right.
Is it sort of like a Siri thing, where it
Probably.
It can hear that she's mentioning it, and that's why projects out?
Yeah.
Like, that in particular is what kind of felt video gamey to me, is that she says the thing, but then you also get the visual right there.
Right. Yeah. Although I'd love if it was like at the same level of Siri. So she's like, oh, look for him. He'll have a plum bloom on his lapel, and it shows like a plum broom. She's like, no.
Yeah.
But I think, she knows him, and she knows where he likes to go. And if
she knows him in the biblical sense,
she knows him. Yeah, that is indicated here.
It's implied.
Well, speaking of which, so backing it up for a second, so that I'll write that off as like, all right, she knows this guy, she knows where he likes to hang out, and he's going there. Presumably that the whole thing with the fathers, there's a big event going on. So it's like going to the Kentucky Derby. Essentially, is like, oh, there happens to be this thing going on this weekend. He's going to be there. He's going to be in this casino because that's where he plays.
Right.
I can buy that.
All right,
but. Interestingly, the way that they set it up, where she's, is it in this minute or is the next minute where they're like,
I think we might be blending minutes here, just because it's the same conversation.
But I did want to bring up a potential. There's conflicting stories over this, whether or not there was at one point this was supposed to be Lando that she was connecting them to. There is either the Master Codebreaker or the DJ character. They thought about making that Lando. And they decided not to because it's like, well, we don't want, and Billy D was apparently just like, yeah, I'll do it. You're like, great. Like he even like put out a thing. He's just like, I will happily come back to be in Star Wars. Like,
yeah.
But they decided not to because they're like, well, people like Lando, and we couldn't have him kind of selling everybody out. And I was like, well, like, have you, like, that's like kind of where he, I don't know. It's like that's in his character from before. It's not, I'm not saying he would necessarily, but you can't say like, well, he wouldn't do that because it's like, well,
why not have Lando be the Master Codebreaker and have DJ be the one who still sells them out?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there you just naturally have a bunch of questions of like what, and you still never really get like what is Lando up to, and why isn't he
right
kind of around helping anybody? The way this scene is structured in general, it makes me wonder if they even like knew for sure that they were going to have these actors talk to Maz, just because it's not the most interesting way to, I don't know, get this sort of plot across, I guess, or I don't know. All the minutes that I have been talking to you guys about all week are kind of just like people sitting and talking.
Sorry.
It's not the most, active, Star Warsy stuff that we generally like, although, there is plenty of Star Wars in general that is just people sitting and talking.
Right.
Yeah. And so, in my mind, it would have been more interesting even if the person they called was Lando or something.
Yeah.
To give them this advice.
Well, I'm picturing now like the kind of like that old commercial for maybe it was hyperlocal. I fall into the trap of referencing hyperlocal commercials, but there was no commercial for like
Charisma.
conference calling, right? Where it was like they're like trying to decide where to eat, and then they're like, oh, let's add Deborah to the conversation, and they it was like this new feature you punch in like star whatever, and it's like, oh great, let's go bowling instead. Like it's that kind of a thing because they don't know Lando directly. So it'd be interesting. They call Maz. Maz is just like, oh, hang on, I know somebody. Like, beep, boop, boop, boop. And like, hello.
Oh, man, that would have been so great.
And then like, they keep adding people to the call.
Well, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I one of my diehard rules is that audition scenes are always funny. Like if you have some situation where you can have a lot of quick cuts between like characters or people doing that, like auditioning for something, like this would have been a great time for them to have like cycle through 6 different people trying to track down. So what characters would you like to see? I put down Bosk, Kitster, and Dash Rendar.
Oh, that'd be
just like the idea of like everyone patching in the next person.
Like, oh, sorry, can't help you guys. Because you could get tons of celebrity.
You can call
something like that. So, you always have any go-to people you'd want to see included?
I mean, my go-to for everything is going to be Boshek because he's the one who set the whole thing in motion. So of course they could go back to him. Yeah. And he'd be like, I would love to help you. I would love to break the code for you, but I got to hand it off to this other guy. And then
what a time for a Jar Jar cameo.
Yeah, that would have been.
Oh, you know what? Boss Nass, though. I am obsessed with Boss Nass is another character that I really love. And I wish there was a Boss Nass cameo in these movies.
The Brian Blessed needs to be in the Marvel Universe before he passes. He should play like Zeus or something in the Marvel Universe.
They haven't done it.
Have they done Hercules? They have no. There's no Hercules yet in the MCU, is there?
I don't think so.
What about Captain Tanaka?
Yeah.
He'd be all negative. It would stop right there. They'd be like, "Hey, can we? We need to try to break the mask." It's like, you can't do that. You'll get caught.
Work.
Click. And he hangs up on them.
Yeah. It should be like you could Baby Yoda in there. You could find out what he's up to now. He's like, leave me alone. He's all like a teenager. He's all like mad.
That's the thing. Once you set up that scene, then you can go back. It's like the celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi. You can just keep going back and adding new scenes of people to call.
Like a 20-minute montage of characters.
Right.
Get Akmina and Harvey Korman pouring a drink into his head and all sorts of crazy characters. So my last observation is about this is really deep in the weeds kind of stuff, but that's what we're here for. There is a series called On Cinema. I don't know if either or you guys you've seen it, Tim, but they did an episode where basically there's a running gag where they have a fictional show and one of the characters plays a character whose name is the Code Breaker. And one of the other character's the other character has a band called Dakar. So in this movie, we have Dakar and the Master Codebreaker referenced, which made me wonder if really on some level they were like Rian Johnson was a secret On Cinema fan and purposely put those.
He is.
That totally makes sense to me. that feels like it.
Did they mention Dakar in the other movie, or was that only mentioned in this? I don't remember if they mentioned the name of the planet the rebels were on in the other movie. They probably did.
Did they even mention it in this? I don't know if it's ever said out loud.
Dakar?
In either one, yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, so they did an episode of On Cinema where they had a mock court trial saying that George Lucas stole the idea from them. So
Wow.
and he was found guilty. So
he was found guilty.
He was found guilty on their mock TV show, on their mock trial thing. So
right.
That's the last I have for minute 44.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have. My note was, we talked about it yesterday, but it was a note that I had for today that MD-15C is distracting. So just want to bring that up again.
Did you want to talk about the ethics of C-3PO not telling the plan? We kind of teased it for today, but we never really got to it.
It wasn't the ethics of it. It was the one of the main complaints that I hear people. One of the complaints.
People come up to you and they complain.
People, anytime I walk down the street, they're like, "Hey, you're that Star Wars guy. Let me tell you my problem with The Last Jedi." Which isn't that far from the truth. But one of the complaints that people have is just like, well, why wouldn't Holdo just tell Poe the plan? Why it doesn't make any sense that. But like here, it's the opposite. It's like, granted, she had already said, I'm not going to tell you what's going on because he just got demoted and he shouldn't, he be told what's going on. But here we have the opposite where he's not telling her the plan. And if they did tell her the plan, they could have potentially, worked something out where it was more, we could have avoided internal conflict from this end too. And so it's not just this one-sided like, oh, this movie's dumb because why shouldn't she tell them the plan? It's like, well, Poe is also at fault here. And he's, it's not a fault of the movie. It's just something interesting that happens in it. And is it interesting?
Yeah.
Most of the time, we'll see.
Here's why I will say that it is partially the fault of the movie, because I think it's a bit of a red herring. I remember when I first saw this movie, I thought they were setting it up so that somehow they're able to track the ship, and now suddenly there's this new character we've never seen before who's behaving very suspiciously. I thought they were kind of setting up Holdo as a double agent. Like that's how they're able to track the ship, because Holdo, it's like on Star Trek, this one character we've never seen before suddenly shows up, and then there's this other storyline where they're tracking the ship. And the fact that she behaves so standoffishly, she doesn't say, "Listen, Poe, I know you're a hotshot right now, but we got it." She just totally cold, gives him the cold shoulder. Made me think, okay, well, obviously she's the spy, but that turned out obviously not to be the case. So, but I think the movie was kind of leading you to not trust her, convincing you that Poe was right not to trust her by making her seem very suspicious. So they're kind of like stacking the deck in Poe's favor, even though in real life it seems like a strain to me. But so anyway. I have one last question for you, Tim.
Yes.
We were talking about cameos, and this is a recurring bit we ask our guests. If somehow it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they were to approach you and say, we want you to be, we love you, we want you to be, we want to give you a cameo in the movie. You're going to be a background extra, you're not going to have any lines, but what kind of, you have your choice. Do you want to be a rebel? Do you want to be an Imperial? Do you want to be a robot, an alien? Do you want to be able to see your face, not see your face? What's your line of thinking?
I would definitely want the equivalent of that guy who's running on Cloud City holding that white box.
Wilrow Hood.
Ended up giving.
Do we know that guy in Cloud City?
Let's call him. We'll add him to the call right now. Hang on.
Bosk, do you know how to get?
So you want that kind of a cameo? You were just running by
with something that seems something oddly legendary, something that not looking at the camera, just doing my job, running, whatever the director tells me to do, but there's something about it that stands out just enough that it could eventually, you could create some canon out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and eventually it becomes a key thing in the Mandalorian, the ice cream maker. So it's funny because if they had a slightly bigger budget and could have hired maybe 10 more extras to run around, we probably never would have noticed Wilrow Hood. But the fact that there's so few, it makes it easy to pick people out, So
easy in a relative sense, in that it's that we watch this movie every day for 20 years, and then it's what's up with that guy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that happens at Celebration is the running. They do the running of the Wilrow hoods, where they have as many people as they can dressed up as Wilrow Hood, wearing the jumpsuit, carrying ice cream makers with big mustaches on, and they all run around in a big herd, and it's quite a thing to see.
My favorite, I think the last one we went to, my favorite one was the person who dressed up as the container with a little tiny, holding a little tiny Wilrow hood.
Wow.
They kind of reversed it.
Clever.
That's so funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will. Speaking of running around, let's. Can we count on you? Can you come back tomorrow for one more day of this, Tim?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. 1,000 times yes.
Well, we just need one.
Only one more.
But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Although, if you do want to come,
I would
take one of our places. It's like one of those mummies curses where if we can get one, if you can get you to take our spot, we get to get out of it.
Maybe I'll call in when you get to this minute, but I am obsessed with a line later in this movie where Finn says, "Where'd the crystal critters go?" And it haunts me, that line. It's such a strange line. The camera kind of zooms into him, and he says it, and it doesn't fit to me, and I just have so many questions about that line in general, and the pomp and circumstance that is allotted to that meaning so much.
Like, I think that would definitely build up to it.
It was a setup for they were potentially going to market Crystal Critters cereal as a breakfast tie-in that they were like, let's get Oscar Isaac to say it, and then we'll use that. And turns out it totally failed in the once
but
they
did it. You're the second person, and we talk about on the podcast that I do. You think that Poe says that line? Poe does not say that line.
Oh,
Finn says that line.
Oh, Finn says it.
Finn says, "Where'd the crystal critters go?"
Crystal
something
critters,
about that.
Yeah, they were too salty. That's why they didn't work as a breakfast cereal. Why are there no salty?
It's a shame because I ordered
cereals?
a crate of them.
Oh well, we're dragging this on far enough.
Well, speaking of calling in, if you would like to call in, leave us a short message about something that you want to talk about on the show. You can call our number 8-Day-Greedo, and that will go to a voicemail. We promise we won't pick up. So don't call and be like, pick up, Star Wars Minute, pick up. We promise we won't, and if it's a brief, humorous, or insightful message, there's a chance that we'll use it on the show. And other than that, we'll be happy to see you here, or hear you here, or listen to
We'll listen to you.
We'll hear us listening to you tomorrow on a brand new Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.